Oh, yeah. Did you guys see this? I got this tweet. You're welcome for the YouTube content, by the way. Have a field day. If you don't know what this is about, Nintendo gets veto power over commentary now, and we get question mark. Hello. Unfortunately, with the respective tours in place, CEO is no longer responsible for selecting the commentary teams for Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, Super Smash Bros. Melee, and Tekken 7. Panda Cup and TWT will be bringing their own commentators. So what does this mean, right? This is actually really normal. So if you remember in the before times, right? When CPT, TWT, Dragon Ball, Arc Revel, all these tours were happening at once for tournaments, this was how commentary was selected. At an event, there's two ways to get hired as a commentator. One, by getting hired by the tournament organizer. Its CEO, in this case, Jabali, reaches out to you and says, hey, I would like you to commentate CEO 2022. They would offer you a rate. They would say, I want to pay you X amount of money. You commentate these games. Does that sound good? Cool. You can also get hired through the TO by filling out a commentary form. Those became much more popular in the last couple of years. And then they select you or don't select you for commentary. So that's being hired through the TO in a grassroots way. The other way to do commentary for fighting games or other games like this was to get hired through the tour. So Tekken World Tour, Capcom Pro Tour, or Dragon Ball World Tour, Arc Revo, right? Arc's World Tour, whatever the tour is, having an event at this tournament. When this is the case, if it's a non-premier level event, right, or non-master level event, or whatever, saga level event, then the TO would hire you themselves still. If it's like a premier or a master level event for Tekken, or whatever it is, the big event, where the developer handles the stream, they are also picking, hiring, and taking care of commentary. So whenever you saw me on Capcom Pro Tour, I was hired by Capcom. If you see me on twitch.tv/CEO Gaming, I was not hired by Capcom. I'm working for Jabali directly. If I'm on Spooky, I'm not hired by any tour. I'm working for Spooky or whoever is working the event directly. When it's done via these tours, the production company involved, along with the developer, is choosing the commentators. So they have a more direct role and they can turn down or approve people based on their needs and asks and wants. This has been this way for tours for a long time. The concerns that people have, which are valid, is if the tour is handled directly by Bandai Namco or Panda or Capcom or whoever, does that stifle the opportunity for new commentators to get in or hurt people? And the answer is yes and no. It's the same as if Jabali is hiring people. He's going to hire people who he knows, well-known or well-respected within their scenes, and people he knows and he has a rapport with, and that's who he'll hire. And it's the same thing with these companies, right? To give you an example, the Capcom Pro Tour has existed before Street Fighter V. I was not a Capcom Pro Tour commentator when Street Fighter V first started. In fact, at the beginning of 2016, I was not a well-known commentator. I was like, hey, I would like to do CPT. And I was told, hey, you might get a block or two this year for CPT. We will probably give you a block at SCR. That's what I was told. By the second or third CPT event of the year, I started getting hired for all of them for the rest of the year. I was told I might get one block, and then I did EVO finals that year. So that pipeline is, it's not always what you expect sometimes. And to break in and get an opportunity for CPT, I had to do a bunch of other events and then create a reputation as a commentator. And when I was more well-known and well-requested and hired more, then I got offered CPT jobs. Now, simultaneously, if there is a situation where the producer or the production company working on the event or the developer themselves does not want to hire you, you do not get hired. When CPT hired people, they would hire 5 commentators per event in the last couple of years for CPT, right? Their general rule was that like 2 to 3 to sometimes 4 of the commentators were like the established names. So they would just hire Steve and I or James and David. And then with the spots they have left, they would always dedicate 1, 2, or 3 spots to hiring local commentators. So if we were going to Florida, we would hire people from the East Coast or the South or the Midwest or whatever, right? Like somebody in that region. If we were in the Midwest for Combo Breaker, they would hire commentators from the Midwest for that region. So if Tekken World Tour is going to go to the East Coast, then they should hire Bloodhawk and Reno and whoever, right? And if it's going to be in SoCal or NorCal, that's when they would hire MYK and Rixta. Is this a problem where sometimes you only end up with the same commentators over and over? Absolutely. It definitely happens where the TWT is Rip and Mark and Steve over and over and over. If they only have 3 paid commentator slots and they have to pick 3 people, that can definitely happen. right? Particularly when you have less slots. The more slots you have available, CPT normally had 5 slots available. Much easier to hire local commentators when you have room there. However, the same concern can happen at CEO. Like, what if Jabali really just does not like, I don't know, who would Jabali hate? He hates Kenny Omega. And Kenny Omega is this up-and-coming Street Fighter commentator, and he really wants a slot, and Jabali's like, I don't fucking like that guy. You're not getting hired for CEO. Now, what if at Combo Breaker, Rick loves Kenny Omega? Then Rick's going to hire Kenny Omega, and then the non-Kenny Omega commentator's like, psh, these events just... Of course you get hired for Combo Breaker. They love you there. Of course you're not going to get hired for CEO. They hate you there. This is, you know, a very common idea. So whether it's the local TO handling the commentary or whether it's the company itself, the biases and favoritism can certainly happen. And whether you're well established or not, your chances can be hurt or be more favorable depending on who is doing the hiring and why. If the person from the Capcom Pro Tour does not like Sajam and loves the Midwest, your chances of getting hired if you're not Sajam and from the Midwest will go up if that's the case, right? In our hypothetical example, does that make sense? It's on them to hire people who are both established names and also up-and-coming commentators. You want both to exist. If you're going to have an event in the Midwest, you should have some commentators from the Midwest and also national names that people like. If it's from the East Coast, there should be people who are from the East Coast and also national names. If it's in the UK, it should be people who know the UK and are from the UK and are familiar with that region, right? Like, you know what I mean? Wherever it is, you need both. Can it be a problem that you lack that regional diversity, or even that the people hiring commentators don't know who the fuck to hire and they're like, this guy's great, right? And that person hasn't commentated the game in like a year and a half. That can happen all the time. And like when you get that call, a lot of people will just say yes. So it can create weird scenarios where potentially the most available person that should be doing the job doesn't always get it. These kinds of things happen. Anyway, so yeah, people freaking out about this. When an event happens like this and Panda has to hire commentators, they will probably hire people who are like known in the scene that Panda knows and they are comfortable with and know will show up and do stuff. It's the same thing with TWT. TWT will hire Mark and Rip and Steve, and if it's a regional event, they should also hire people from the East Coast to do the tournament as well, right? That's just how it should go. And also, I think now, more than ever, it's far easier to be seen on commentary in the sense that with so many online events everywhere, it's very easy to find events that need commentators, therefore build a reel and build a rapport with other commentators and then have a chance to do stuff, right? Because it's impossible for someone to monopolize the sheer volume of work that happens with how many online tournaments there are. So this is how commentary works. I know that there was a lot of people freaking out about this and they didn't know how it worked. You could always just ask. I can explain to you down to the nitty-gritty of how this works. You know, I've done this. I've done this for like 5 tours. And in fact, I had to explain this recently. Smash has very little experience with having a tour. But when it comes to commentary money, the Smash commentary money is so bad and was so bad because of how bad the developer support was. Without developer support, commentary rates are very low. There's many events where I know Smash commentators who are commentating an entire weekend top to bottom for like $600 from the TO or $800 or whatever it is, right? And I was making that money also from a TO because they hired me to do side games. And I was making more than that per day working on the CPT or TWT or whatever it was at the same time. Smash commentators had it truly bad. Yeah, and also that's true. It's not unusual for commentary rates to be 15 to 25 to whatever dollars per hour per event. And if that's the case and you're working, you know, 10 hours a weekend, which is a pretty full, it's a lot of commentary, right? Like a pretty big commentator to make $250. And that's hoping that they cover your flight and hotel, which they might not. You make a fourth of what you make in a week, but you also spend $1,000 to do your job or something. You're like, well, so it's why the tours are beneficial for commentators. The tours mean that the commentators they get flights and hotels and a real day rate, and it allows them to exist without getting absolutely hosed at these tournaments. You know. Speaking of which, Ludwig coming up. He's talking a big game.
Let me talk about this guy complaining about seating all morning.
Yeah.
All day.
Well, look, I gotta say, if there's one thing Smash players are good at, it's taking a game that's not meant to be competitive and it's for children and taking it very serious. So I think he has a background prepared for this kind of environment.